Hello adventurers, and welcome back to my channel. Today we are at Valley of Fire State Park in Nevada, and I can't wait for this adventure. This is going to be super amazing. Now if you look on the internet at Valley of Fire, you'll see some very compelling, beautiful images of some of the landscape, and it is gorgeous and unlike anything you're going to find anywhere else. In fact, there's this entire wave that kind of looks like bacon. I'm hoping that we find that today. But today is going to be my first day to ever explore this park, and you're coming with me. Let's go. First we have to pay, and this is non-reservation day use today, and I don't have a discount, so it's a $15 fee. Okay, it says here that they currently are out of paper maps, so we're supposed to take a photo of this. So I'm gonna do that, but I wanted to show you kind of what we're gonna be doing today. Today we're starting off right over here. This is the Elephant Rock Loop. It's 0.2 miles out and back, or there is a 1.25 mile loop all the way around. So I think we're gonna go see Elephant Rock, and then we're gonna move on down this way and kind of make a few stops along the way until we get to the visitor center, which is open until 4 today. Now, a couple of interesting things about the park before we even move in to see anything. This park was actually the first Nevada state park, and it was founded in about the 30s. So it's been here for a while. It's almost celebrating its 100th anniversary of being a state park, which is super, super awesome. But before that, the Native Americans actually used this area as an area where they would do hunting and gathering and things like that. And so there's a lot of historic moments that we'll see kind of around the park that explain that a little bit more. So I'm super excited, but we're gonna go out to Elephant Rock first and see what we can find. There's a couple signs along the way, so let's check those out. Starting off with this one, if we see a desert tortoise, we need to be very careful because they are actually a threatened species. It says here what we're supposed to do if we do see one and how we can help maintain the tortoise and their habitat. We also have a sign talking about the environment and visitors and how plants and animal life are extremely fragile. And look here, as soon as we come into the park, we have found a bunny. So we're going to respect all of the rules that are written on these signs right here, and we're going to depart in this direction. But just so you guys know, there's actually a lot more to this one stop right here than meets the eye. There's more signage, there's more maps, there's information about the visitor center, and then there's this. Wow, this is cool. This is very cool. Okay, so let's go see this Elephant Rock. This is gonna be just a brisk little walk, but this is gonna determine if I put on my full-on hiking shoes today. This little one walk right here. I can already see that there would be a value to it. This little area is not super even. There's a lot of loose sand, some tiny gravel. So yeah, even though I'm in sneakers right now, probably would be valuable to put on some hiking boots. So when I get back to the van, I will definitely do that. Yeah, definitely gonna put some hiking boots on after this one. This little path right here kind of proves that we need it. Along the trail, markers like these are actually leading us in the right direction, but look at this. Wow. Okay, so you can probably see right down there, there's where Dimples is, but it says don't walk along the road, so that's why they have the trail. And here is Elephant Rock. Wow. It does kind of look like an elephant, I will say that. Look, it has like a trunk, and then you can see like feet. Pretty cool. Okay, so that was really neat and easy to get to. I am gonna go ahead and put on my hiking boots just in case, but wow. If this is any indicator as to what we're going to find, we are in for a treat today. The rocks here are different than in other areas. They remind me kind of red rocks, but at the same time they have kind of a different texture to them, so it's pretty cool. But yeah, wow. That is cool, guys. Very, very cool. And as we go back, I'm going to show you a few more of those little areas that have like the holes in the side of the rock that you're kind of seeing over here just a little bit, but there's more as we go back to the parking, so let's go. We came from this direction where this guy is about to come up right here, this couple actually, but I think that we can go back in this direction. So let's try it out and see what's this way. Okay, this path seems to be working pretty well for us, and we're almost back to the parking lot, so that's good. This one right here actually cuts through, and you can see to the back side over there. Look at this texture. This is wild, and it's not in all of it. It's just in this one little section right here. Everything else is pretty smooth in comparison. Okay, this little opening here actually cuts through, and you can see through this little arch area, but there's something cool on this arch that I want to show you too. And what? This one is actually a full-on actual cave that you can walk into. Wow, this is so cool. I wonder if this at one point in time was actually a habitat. It could have been. It definitely could have been. This would make an awesome shelter. And then there's this one also, which goes pretty deep back in there, and then the smaller one right here. So very, very much so, I'm thinking this had to have been a shelter at one point. I mean, that would make sense. It would make sense. So now we're gonna have to go find out more of the story to find out exactly if we were right. Do you see the marker over in the distance there? Well, this actually is a historic marker that is related to Sergeant John J. Clark. We can actually learn a little bit more about Clark right here. He was actually born in Canada in 1844 and enlisted as a private in Company F of the New York Infantry in 1862. He served actively in the Civil War, and after being shot in the hand and contracting typhoid fever, he was honorably discharged in 1863. Following his discharge, Clark immigrated to Southern California, and while traveling from Bakersfield to Salt Lake City on a buckboard, he stopped near this spot, tied up his horse to the back of the wagon, and wandered around, possibly looking for water, and eventually he crawled under his buckboard and died. It was unfortunately several days before his body was found. Now, a couple of things can be learned from this. Number one, this man was passing through here, and at the time there weren't amenities like there are now, and so bringing water was super important. However, it also goes to show that bringing water is also super important to us whenever we are out here exploring. So don't forget your water whenever you come out. Make sure that you bring quite a bit if you're wanting to do the hikes. And personally, I would avoid this area during summer. It gets super, super hot. Oh boy, guys, we're about to stop off at our second stop, and this is called the cabin, and I am already seeing it, and it is awesome. Again, before we go explore the cabins, let's talk about them. These are 3 cabins that were actually built by the CCC, the Civilian Conservation Corps, soon after Valley of Fire became a state park in 1935. So these bad boys right here have been standing since 1935. Now, at one point in time, approximately only 9,000 people per year were visiting. However, now several 100,000 visitors visit the park each year. So of course I want to go get a closer look, because anything the CCC built is fabulous usually and very detailed. So up these little stairs we go. This is what the inside of the first one looks like. On this second one right here, you can actually see some of the original posts that would come out in the front from those holes. And then we're gonna go inside and see what's a little bit different about this one. This one isn't rounded, so it's probably just gonna be a big square with a fireplace, but let's see. The way they created buildings like this was to not only withstand all of the elements, but also to give a little bit of insulation. These rock walls are very thick. So just from where we were standing outside to coming inside, there is at least a 15 to 20 degree difference. It feels so much better. And if we had a little bit of a breeze, this would be where I'd be spending a lot of time, for sure. This is really nice in here, and we're not even finished. We have a couple more little places in this particular section to explore. One more cabin, and then I want to show you something kind of cool. This cabin is actually completely detached from the other two, and it is very similar in structure to the one we just went into. However, whenever we go in, let's see if the temperature is the same in this one or if the middle one was cooler. Oh, I already see something different. Do you see that fireplace? That is a very different layout right there. The others were kind of slanted. This one is built in more of a square, and then it has this nice mantle right here, also out of the rock. This is really, really cool, guys. The space in here is pretty nice, but I will say this. Maybe it's because it was between two, but the middle cabin was definitely a bit cooler. Now, if you were to be in these cabins, your view would look like this. Isn't that epic? Can you imagine waking up in the mornings to that? Now, as we come to the backside, we can tell that there have been some modifications made. There are some small holes at the top, which probably would have been where the rafters originally came from, but to secure it and make it more stable, they have added this newer roof to the top. So it kind of makes sense. They always like to preserve these structures so we can come here, and I am always appreciative of it. And then on this wall behind, it looks like there's some petroglyphs. Now, there's no signs about these, but I do know the park does have a lot of different petroglyphs, so these are pretty interesting, to say the least. We will be continuing to keep our eye open for some more of them, that's for sure. Now, while you're out here, there's another set of stairs right over there, and then there's also a few ways that you can get kind of down into this slot right here to do some hiking also. So this is super convenient. And then also, if you go over to the other side, there's some little trails that depart in that direction to get some different views of the slot. So that's pretty cool. But look at this. This parking area is huge and vast. So lots of people can be out here at the same time checking it out. And they have both a bathroom and a picnic area, which is super cool. The area we are in right now is called Seven Sisters. This is actually a pull-off where you can picnic or just explore around to get a little closer to the rocks. And just to kind of give you a size reference, this is Dimples versus one of the sisters right here above it. And I think you can see now the sheer size of these things is crazy huge. It is pretty amazing to be able to stop off at a place like this though and have such a close visual of what the rocks look like, and then have the van right up next to it, because that truly does give you a size comparison right there. It is crazy how big these formations are, and then also just kind of what you see in them. For example, I see this one over here has a lot of these little holes that are just like etched into the rock. They're not big enough for you to actually inhabit. However, they're really cool and fascinating, and you can see that some of them have like a passageway through them. It's spectacular. Let me show you closer. Like, look at this. These things are probably 2 feet tall by 2 feet wide at minimum right here, and then some of them pass through to the next one, some of them do not. That is just really wild. Now, there is one other thing that's kind of daunting here. You see this rock up at the very top? It looks like at any given time it could just topple over. So we're not going to go near that one. No, no, no. Now, they call this place the Valley of Fire because of the coloration of the rocks. And it's just beautiful and magnificent. However, today I seem to have picked a day that is very fire-like. It is 82 degrees today. Our next stop will be the visitor center, where I hope to find a patch to add to my patch collection. Okay guys, we're inside and they have a variety of different things here that are very interesting, like some petrified logs. They actually have petrified logs here in the park. That's cool. Also, we can learn a little bit more about how the Native Americans might have used this area, and this would have been a kitchen tool. So this is kind of neat right here. Super amazing. These images are all taken from here in the Valley of Fire, and they show not only some of the locations, but some of the critters and some of the vegetation, and these are amazing. Of course, one of my favorite things to do is to explore the visitor center because they do tell you a little bit more about the park. And I'm really looking for some information about the Native Americans especially. So let's go and check out some of the exhibits over here. Now this is exactly what I was looking for right here, the gypsum people. And it talks more about when they inhabited the area, what kind of life that they had. And it says here that they were actually nomads also. A very different kind of nomad than I currently am, but nomads nonetheless. Their diet actually consisted of bighorn sheep, small game, seeds, and nuts, all of which can be found right here in the Valley of Fire. Now, another cool thing that they have here is a footprint. It says this is a half-size footprint that is actually based on something that they found in park. Cool. The next group of people that inhabited this area were called the basket makers. And the basket maker people adapted well to the dry climate and the scarcity of food of southern Nevada. It says here that they were also nomad hunters and gatherers, but they actually had very similar diets to the last one. Their special trait, however, was basket making, which is what earned them the title of basket makers. And then came along the Anasazi Pueblos, and this was a very different society than the other two. They were actually considered to be hunting, collecting, supplementing by gardening also, and they domesticated corn, beans, squash, wild plants, and then they also had the traditional things like the bighorn sheep, deer, and antelope. Now these do look very similar to what we saw over at the cabins a while ago, so this is a repeated pattern, and I'm thinking this might have been actual petroglyphs. Yay! Super awesome. But inside each one of these little cubbies, we can learn a little bit more about each of the people that might have inhabited this area also. So let's go take a peek. Inside this one we have a bowl and some jewelry. Kind of hard to see in there, but that's definitely what's in there. On this shelf, we have another one of those tools that we saw a while ago, the flattened stone, and then the rock that they would have used to grind things. A few loose bones, which would have been used for something. And then inside this one, what is that? Really though, what is that? Along the struggles for survival came a lot of different kinds of tools, including arrowheads, spear points, and things like that. And here you can find what each one of those might have looked like, as well as what some of the gardening devices would have looked like. Dioramas always paint the picture for us a little bit differently, and looking into this is what life might have looked like for some of the native people whenever they first inhabited this area. You can see a lot of different things going on here. Like for example, these two over here look to be hunting something, and they have a very large stick that it looks like they're going after it with. Here we have two that have just brought back a bighorn sheep to the tribe. The shelter would have been made of something that would have been found in nature, which would have been the low-lying brush, and then some of the logs and things like that that are found in this area. And you can see here that they are actually working on something. That is pretty interesting. We now move into the next section, which talks about the inhabitants from 900 years ago until now. And these are the southern Paiutes. And they were able to adjust to the very dry climate, which had actually defeated the others. And they found that by being nomads and allowing flexible response to challenging conditions, that they were able to thrive. And they actually have some photos here of what the children of the tribe might have looked like, as well as some of the baskets. Again, as we look inside, this is a look into the life of the Native Americans which inhabited this area. And then comes invaders. Invaders from Spain, American invaders, Mexican invaders, and then ultimately the US military, and the impact that it had on not only this area but the people who previously lived here. Now, I think that this is interesting because it actually shows the regional map of routes that were used for exploring and also for trade, and then also a few small pictures here depicting what life might have been like and how the footprint would have changed. Now we have like a boot. Now, before invaders came to this area, the Native Americans were considered to be extremely isolated, and so they had to fend off of whatever that they had, or the land itself. But then, as the invaders came in, settlements started to pop up, and it was the end of the range as we know it for Native Americans. And that's what the last two signs actually talk about. And this part of the display is actually kind of sad looking as well. Let me show you. We move from this section over here until this section, and as you can see, a much different look. A lot of just unnecessary trash and debris left about, a lot of things discarded and just left along the way, and lack of respect for the land. After settlers had come, after settlements had been established, then progress came along, and with that, the coming of the railroad. And I think that this sign right here kind of explains the final bit of expansion that we currently are seeing today. Now, the original roadway that ran through the Valley of Fire was called the Arrowhead Trail. However, it was eventually bypassed by Highway 91, and it changed kind of the landscape of how we see the park today. Let's kind of look at this and see what I'm talking about. This right here is actually a map of what the park looks like. It became federal land in 1848. It became state land in 1931. It became a part of the Boulder Dam Valley of Fire State Park 1935, and by 1941, the Valley of Fire was actually for sale. So how did they go from first state park to suddenly for sale? Well, there's an actually interesting story here also, and this sign tells you all about it. It's quite fascinating. In fact, right here you can see that because of the Great Depression of the 30s, they had no funds for staffing, the campgrounds were neglected, and everything was virtually abandoned. So they had to come up with something to do in order to make it work. From 1941 until 1954, it was a very grim time for this particular park, and it wasn't until 1954, after World War II, that there was an interest in state parks once again, and it was finally saved from the chopping block. I think that just goes to show just how fragile that our state parks really are, because in a pinch, they were ready to get rid of the land because they had no money. And so they were going to get rid of this beautiful natural space to the highest bidder. And that could have been detrimental to not only us visiting now, but imagine all of the displaced animals, the history, and everything else. It would have been really, really bad, guys. Today we look at this location and we consider it part of the desert, but at one point in time, this was actually part of the sea. And this is what it might have looked like. There have been fossils pulled out from all sorts of very interesting sea creatures in this very area. Of course, now it is known as a geological park with a ton of different kinds of rocks that you can find throughout, including limestone, sandstone, gypsum, and conglomerate rocks like this. But on the tops of all of those formations that we were seeing as we first came into the park, you might have noticed that there was a lot of black stuff. That's actually called desert varnish. Desert varnish occurs whenever the natural rock actually has interaction with water and then also other material, and it kind of changes the way that things look. It's pretty interesting. Now the interesting part. How was it formed? That's the big question that this section right here actually addresses, and this one behind me also. Let's look. It all comes down to the earth and its ever shifting, ever changing dynamic. And you can see here the different layers of the earth and then also the crust up here. We are just on one tiny layer of the entirety of the earth, but this is the layer that is the most volatile when it comes to changing our everyday landscape. And it's quite interesting to know that the crust itself is only 0 to 100 kilometers thick at most, and the entirety of the world is actually 6,378 kilometers. So we are just literally the tip of the iceberg. Now, believe it or not, even though we are so far away from the core, that changes within the core's temperature can cause shifts, and shifts cause changes to the crust all the way up here where we stand, even though we're far removed from this right here. It's a very volatile process and completely unpredictable despite all the science that we have. So it's kind of interesting. Okay guys, I found a patch for Valley of Fire. I'm gonna go ahead and put this on my ceiling. Okay, I think it's gonna go right over, maybe about Tom Devlin here, maybe. We're gonna extend over this way just a little bit. There we go. Yeah, Valley of Fire. Yes. And back on the road we go. Now, I did learn something else while I was inside. We will not be able to fully go all the way up to the White Domes. There's a reason for this though. Actually, someone went hiking there and did not come back. So they're trying to figure out what happened to this person. They don't know if it was because there was strong wind, if they had gotten dehydrated, if they were injured, if they got off trail and got lost. They have no idea, but right now they're currently doing search and rescue in that area. So that area is closed. But that brings me to a very important part of this video. I do want to talk to you guys again about safety. We talked about earlier bringing lots of water. It's super important. It is climbing in temperatures by the minute today. It is in the 90s now. And so hiking during any kind of conditions that are super hot require a lot more water. Also, super windy conditions can be extremely dangerous on mountains. So if you know that it's going to be a bad day, just say no to the trail. It's no big deal. You can always come back and adventure on it another day. It is better safe rather than sorry, for sure. Another thing, wear the proper shoes. We've talked about that. I slid down a mountain in Telluride and it was absolutely terrifying. I laughed it off, but still, in that 1 second of panic, I was so scared, guys. I'm not even gonna try to pretend like I was not. But yeah, there's a lot of different things that can go wrong. You're in a natural space, you are removed. So if you don't have a hiking buddy, especially, be safe, be cautious, and dot all your I's, cross all your T's, and make sure that you're doing everything you can to make sure you get another day to adventure. So yeah, we're going to be keeping that particular person in our thoughts today, and I hope that they do in fact find them. But I wanted to talk to you guys about that because it is a very real thing that happens in state and national parks, and I don't think that as often as we should we talk about the fact that that does happen. So I hope that you guys are very mindful when visiting any place, not just here, any place. But yeah, let's get back on the road, and I have a few places that I was kind of advised would be good still, and so we're gonna go check those out. So let's go. Okay, we are now visiting the Silica Dome, and it says that this is actually one of the best examples here in the park of the sandstone, which is made almost entirely of silica. And for all of us that are visiting, it's just a magnificent place to see how the colors change between the reds and then the kind of beiges and the whites. It's just really gorgeous out here. And this is a very short walk. I mean, there's the parking lot and we're almost there. think one of the nice things about this place is that they have trails that are shorter, and then they have trails that are longer, and so they have things for a lot of different abilities. Now, I'm yet to find an ADA accessible trail, however, so I did want to kind of add that in here. But wow, this is amazing. And you can actually take the upper point up here like we did, or you can kind of go down here, and if you go down here, there's an entirely different vantage point up on the top. You can kind of see some people over there, but it is wild how many options there really are out here. So definitely come and have some time to explore, definitely. So all of these people who are going down here are about to get turned away at that junction right up at the front there. That is where the roadblock starts, and you can see they're all coming back this way now. Okay, we are now at this particular location, and I think it's Adel, but if it's not, sorry guys, I don't know. But this is actually going to be one of the locations where we can see the petroglyphs. So we're going to be going over here and then up these steps right here to the top where we can see a wall of petroglyphs. And I decided to lighten my load a little bit since we are about to do some stairs. So GoPro, cell phone, that's it. We're not bringing the big camera for this one because we have a long way to go to the top. I think they said that this was like 80 some odd stairs. So let's go get our workout in today. Okay guys, so we're up here with the petroglyphs and there's several different rows of them that you can totally see. It's amazing, and it was well worth the stairs, even though I will say I was definitely winded when I got up here, but definitely worth it. You can come up here and it feels pretty structurally sound, and then a lot of really cool things. I'm gonna let you see a little bit closer up, but then I'm also gonna show you what the surround looks like. This is an amazing and very impressive viewpoint. So definitely, if you are able to do some stairs, come up here. In addition, in this direction over here, there's a campground and then also a dump station. So if you're interested in camping in park, you totally can. Or you can be like me. I camped on BLM land right outside of the park last night. So it was super awesome. And again, just a great way to get out and adventure while you're here in Nevada and do something a little bit different. Look at this. Oh, so cool. And look. Look. There's Dimples. These petroglyphs are about 4,000 years old. That is amazing. So they're coming from some of those native people, which we first saw in the visitor center. So really neat to see how their history kind of unfolds on these walls. Now, something that we've noticed at a lot of other parks, there's a lot of vandalism. And even though it says very clearly, do not mark on the rocks, and it also says here that we're supposed to report vandalism, people still do it. Shame on you guys. Shame on you guys. But now we're gonna go back down. We got some stairs to go, and then I'm gonna show you what it initially looked like coming up here. It was very, very different. In fact, this particular structure of stairs that makes it more accessible to us all was not always the main way to get up. I'll show you. Okay, here is the set of stairs that we're clearly on, but do you see this beside us? That was actually the main way that people got up here for a while, at least. I'm not exactly sure how long this was the main stairway, but this one is way better, much more sturdy, much more wide, and you know, we like a good handrail. Another view of what that might have looked like with that initial staircase, and just a comparison of the width. Much more comfortable there, wouldn't you say? Something that always baffles me is that they found those petroglyphs way up there. So who found them? That's always my curiosity. How did they find them? Another curiosity. I like to look back into the history after I've left a place so that I can see the answers to those very questions, because the average person is not just going to be able to get up there and find those. They might be able to find some of those other ones that were closer to the CCC area, but that is a struggle bus to get up to. So how? I'm gonna have to look this up. I'm not quite finished exploring yet. I'm gonna go through this sand for a minute and see what's on the other side of the petroglyphs, because I saw something I was curious about. But this sand is no joke. This is some tough sand. Wow, this is super cool. Super, super cool. You can keep going up into the little slot over here, or you can just kind of come and see where the sand stops. Very neat. Very, very neat. And I think what's even better is that you get up close with the rock and you can see the lines, how they form in it. Wow, this is cool, guys. This is super cool. But there's one other thing. This shaded area, you can see where things are able to grow because they're not in direct sunlight, and so they don't have the water just sucked out of them quite as much. So it's really neat to see the green plants that are popping up in this little section, but also this right up here. Do you see it? That is a recess that goes in about 5 or 6 feet at least. Very cool. And then this rock right here is actually the one that has the petroglyphs on it. And you can see a little bit of that walkway poking out. So look at that rock in comparison to the expanse of this entire area. Very small. Again, leads you to question, how did they find those petroglyphs amongst all of this? Inquiring minds want to know, and we will figure it out. Maybe not in this video though. But I will figure this out, and I encourage you guys to look into it also. Definitely, that's going to be your assignment from me. Do that and then come here so you'll understand it a little bit more. But wow, this place is spectacular, and I'm so happy that we came. We're not quite finished yet. We have a couple more stops, but all in all, I'm pretty happy that we came out to Valley of Fire today. This is Arch Rock. and you can see it is a natural forming arch, very similar to that at Arches National Park. Very cool, very, very cool. And that one was just literally right around the corner from where we went and saw the petroglyphs. So less than probably a quarter of a mile, less than. Very, very neat. And the expanse just keeps going. There's actually another place that you can go out and see some of the different formations in this direction also. See, you could totally go exploring up through here. There's a really interesting looking slot right there. I wonder if it goes far back. But then there's some other things that connect you to the area that we would have come out if we would have continued pursuing that behind the petroglyph area. As you can see though, there is a lot to explore out here, and we're not even taking on the biggest section that most people come for. Unfortunately, at the beginning of this video, I said we were gonna go look for the place that looks like bacon, but that's where the person unfortunately has gone missing. So we won't be seeing that today, but we have seen a lot of amazing things, and I'm super happy that we came here. And I hope you are too. If you've enjoyed coming along with me to Valley of Fire State Park, make sure that you leave a like on this video, hit subscribe, and check out all of the content of all the different places that I've been going. I do have a Nevada playlist for all of the things that are in this area, so you can put together a really good trip. And then I have other playlists with other states and van life, so make sure you check those out. Remember guys, we are not here for a long time, but we are here for a good time, and sometimes that means just getting out, stretching our legs a little bit, and having some fun in nature. Until next time guys,